Hey everyone, in this video we're going to do something a little bit special. We're taking another time out from the actual course so that I can show you another interesting and fun technique using Bitwig Studio. And this video is focusing specifically on the audio mod. Now the audio mod is a little bit different and it's not something you're going to find in most digital audio workstations. You can do something basically the same in Ableton Live if you're using Max for Live, and I think they have an envelope follower or something in there, but not everybody has access to that. So if you're working in Bitwig, this comes with the software, and I think it's important that you understand how to use this thing, mainly because you have access to it. If I hadn't randomly generated the audio mod like I did in that last creation composition, I never would have really tapped into its potential because it's something different, and things that are different are a little bit scary and we're less apt to go and use them. It's so easy for me to go in here and pull out the LFO or the step because I know exactly what it's going to do. With the audio mod, it's kind of new and it's going to take people some time to adjust to it, but once they do, I think it's going to be just as popular a means of modulation as writing in your own automation lanes or using the LFO or using the step mod. So let's get into it here. In my last composition, I showed you that I had an XY effect, and in each of the quadrants of the XY effect, I dropped an audio mod, and then inside of these audio mods, I had something like a distortion, or in my case, it was a comb. And what I did was I took the source from, I think I had a kick track or something. If we choose resample, it's fine if our track is muted. It's still going to get input, as you can see. If I go to post, we're not getting anything. So pre is very helpful if you want to be ghosting anything. Like, you know how if you have a pad or something and you want to do that sidechain compression, you need a ghost track. Same kind of thing here. You have to use pre-fader to get that to work for you. And then what I did was I modulated something like, let's just say, the mixed parameter. And we can see that moving now. It's not going very high. And an easy way to change that is to just increase the source amount here until we can, go take it way too high or find that sweet spot. Bitwig is not about exact. It's really not. It's kind of old school. And then anybody who has guitar effect pedals and stuff, that you don't get a little number telling you exactly where you're at. You have like a percentage. You know that you've turned the knob 75%. Bitwig works in that way that you have to ask the question, is this too much or is it too little? And then you make a change. Is it too much? Is it too little? And I really like that. That's kind of an old school approach, but it forces you to use your ears even more. So I could get this exactly how I want it. I can adjust this release parameter here, slow things down a bit, increase the attack, or pull the attack right down. So there's all sorts of stuff we can do to try to dial this in just right, all right, or get something that we're happy with. And what I did in my last composition was I loaded up variations of this on each of these different little spots here, A, B, C, and D. And then I could open this up and I could modulate these positions using automation, or I could even have an LFO controlling that, whatever the case may be. And that gave me a bunch of variation right off the bat. Now what I've done in this example is I started with just a default saw wave that I resampled from the polysynth, and it sounds like this. I also went in and I resampled a clap sound here. That was coming from the E-clap. I have some noise, and I just shaped a couple of different envelopes of noise. Again, I resampled that from the polysynth. And then I also took a kick from the E-kick, and I modulated the amount of decay. I did that on the clap as well because it's going to give us some more variation using the audio mod. So I thought, okay, we have this very basic saw wave here. How can I use the audio mod to really change that and mess with it? So what I did first was I took my source from noise 1, and this is the envelope I drew in for noise 1. We can listen to it quickly. Okay, whatever, not all that exciting. But what it gives me is a bunch of variation. Now, hypothetically, if I set the audio mod up correctly, I can have a parameter and I can modulate it to go along with what I've drawn in here. So I thought, okay, let's do a filter first. This looks like it could be a good motion for a filter. So I went in here. In my effects, I added the ladder filter, and we can see that I have it messing with both frequency and resonance. I've boosted the level a little bit to make sure that I get some variance. I've also pulled my curve up 40% to even heighten the effect a little bit further. So now we can listen to the saw wave. And I also have a send track, which I'll turn off for right now. But you can hear we've gotten some variation in there. All right, cool. We've got a little bit of filter motion, nothing too complex, nothing too crazy. I went ahead and then added a second audio mod, this one routed to noise 2. And this one is, of course, just a fade up and a fade out. And what I've mapped this to is the mix and a few other things on the chorus here. So when we add this in, we can take a listen to what happens and watch what happens as well. I'll open both of them up so you can see them at the same time if you want. All right, pretty cool. Again, we're starting to really go somewhere with this now. If I turn these both off, all we have is that default. And then with the two audio mods, all right, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, what if I want to impart a little bit of like side chaining from the kick? I normally don't do this, but I know this is kind of something a lot of people are interested in. Normally, I take the dynamics effect and I could just punch in some side chain from the kick. But I thought, let's take this in a slightly different direction. And what I did, this is fairly experimental, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to everybody. But I went in here, I added a compressor, and what I modulated was the threshold. Okay, so I have a really high ratio, a pretty quick release. This envelope follower gives me even more control over the characteristic of this sidechain. So now actually give this a listen. We'll compare the two because it's pretty interesting to hear what happens. All right, and now let's listen to the dynamics device doing the sidechaining. The crazy thing is, using the audio mod into the compressor, we're evoking just as much gain reduction when the kick is hitting, only it sounds cleaner. It sounds more transparent, which is what I never expected to have happen, but somehow that happened. So we'll add this in now. And last but not least, I have an audio mod that's going to trigger a delay. And this one is using the clap resample. And we can see that I've modulated a bunch of different things, including feedback, high cut, low cut, and then ultimately the mix. And that's what's going to give this even some more variety and really take this sound home. So let's take a listen to that now with everything in. Add in our kick, add in our clap, add in this reverb, and suddenly we have something really interesting to listen to. Maybe I'll even add in this noise, but I'll just turn it down really, really low. So you would have never thought that with the audio mod it was possible to kind of do something like this. And the reason for that is because it's so new and it's something that not a lot of people are familiar with using. But once you put your mind to it, once you're willing to experiment and you understand the logic of it, I really think you can take this in a number of really cool and interesting ways. So I hope this has been helpful to some of you, and I look forward to hearing what you're able to do with this. Thanks a lot. Take care.